Hello. Today I'm going to show you how to use Smart Learning Suite remotely. This is the Smart Learning Suite dashboard. You can see my name and my class ID. And this is how you add activities. You can tell that I've created other activities today and last week. If you want to create a new activity, you just simply click on the plus sign. When you click on the plus sign, you have a lot of options. You can import a resource from Notebook, PPT, and PDF files. You can also use a Google Slide, or you can import a YouTube video. But if you want a new page, you can create a new lesson right here. Now, if you go to YouTube and you already have an idea of what you want to create, you can type the URL. But if you don't know, you can just type a subject. For instance, I'm going to type in nouns. When I type in nouns, these are all of the videos that are available for me to use on YouTube. And I can click on it and insert it into my lesson. Another option you have is to create a new page. If I click on a new page, I will be sent to a blank page with text. There's also a shout it out activity. So I'm going to show you an example of a lesson I've already created. I created this lesson for my students so they could review their reading tests. So if I click here, that means I can start the lesson. If I click here, that means I can edit the lesson. If I click here, I can share a link with another teacher, I can make a copy, or I can delete it altogether. Now I can share the link in two different ways. I can give a copy of this lesson to other teachers and they can get a share link. Or if I wanted to share a link with the students so that they can work at their own pace, I can just simply copy this URL and share it with my students, which I have done in the past. So what I'm about to do right now is I'm going to open up this lesson to edit it. If I opened it up this way, this is what you will see. This is the student's view. That means that when the student opens up this lesson, this is what he or she will see. Now, this is a maximum up activity. This is just one of the activities that Smart Learning Suite offers. Now, if you look here, this is the home button, and it's going to take me right back to the page that I just came from. Here are the number of students that are participating in the lesson at the time. Now, if I click here, I'll see the names of the students who are involved in the lesson. Now, I'm going to go back to the home button, but before I do that, I want to show you how you can get to another slide. If the students don't know how to get to another slide, they can just go down here, and this is going to take them to the next page. And here's another activity. And they can keep going until they get to the last page. This particular slide has a few examples, and I'm going to go up a little bit more because I want to show you what else you can do here. Now, if you want the students to work at their own pace, but you also want them to be able to understand what they should do, but they're not in your presence, you can always add a recording to your lesson. So I'm going to push play so you can see that. This is a game to practice your high frequency words. High frequency words are the same as sight words. They are words that you see all the time when you're reading. Okay, so I added a message for my students so that they would know what to do. So now I'm going to go back to my home button, and I'm going to go into not the start button because that's going to take me right to the lesson. I'm going to go to the edit button. So now I'm going to pretend as if I'm editing this assignment. You can see I already have these slides. You saw the student view, now this is the teacher's view. If you want to name your lesson, you can type the lesson here, or I can edit this text and change it to something else. So if I wanted to change it to Unit 3, I can do that. But I'm going to stick with Unit 2. So if I continue to go down here, you'll see all of the slides that I have included in my lesson. Now, if I click this plus button, this is where I can add more activities or slides. So if I click here, you're going to see YouTube and a new page. I already showed you how to get to YouTube, but if you want to get to a new page, you click here, and this is what you'll see when you add a new page. You can enter the title or add a description. You can even add an image. You can select your own image and upload it from your own computer, or you can add a web link, and you have another option where you can add a link from a web page. So I'm not going to add anything here yet, but I do want to show you some other tools that Smart Learning Suite has. There's a shouted out activity. If I click here, I'm going to be given a collaborative activity to give to my students. If I click here, this is going to allow me to add a test or an assessment to ask my students some questions. Let's move on to the game-based activities. If you go to the game-based activities, you have all of these options. You have the fill in the blanks, flip it out, game show, label reveal, match them up, memory match, monster quiz, rank order, speed up, super sort, and team quiz. I'm going to go to game show and show you how you can create a game show to review skills. This is really good for that. So let's say I wanted to ask a true or false question. I can say, so now I have two questions. Now I'm going to finish this so that you can see what the game show view looks like. So if the students are going to play the game, you can preview it first before the students play it. So I can click here. And this is what it looks like. So the students can spin this. And then they can choose the answer that they think is correct. It now describes things, true or false. So this is a really good way to practice skills with the students, especially if you want to have a review for them before a test. So another thing that they have here is activating prior knowledge. When you open this up, you have a KWL chart. You have what do you want to know about the topic. You can ask students some questions to activate their prior knowledge, and you can also ask them if a statement is true or false. This can give you a general idea of what the students already know. Now you also can ask them questions and reflect on something that you've already taught them by clicking here. You can say plus, minus, interesting, 3 facts, 2 questions, and 1 opinion. Do you agree or disagree? How do you feel about the topic? And then you have a series of handout activities. I like to use the exit ticket because that's something I use with my students after I've taught a lesson. But they also have an activity called 3, 2, 1 countdown. They can summarize what they've read or learned. They can share 3 things that they learned. They can share what they've learned in 1 minute. They can give a 6-word summary. They can explain what they've learned in this way, and they can also talk about a cause and effect. So it's various ways that they can prove to you what they have learned from the lesson. Now, moving on, let's go to the manipulatives because I like to use these for specific assignments. You have base 10 blocks, which are very useful. I've used that in the past when I was teaching my students about hundreds, tens, and ones. Then you have a calendar that they can create. You have coins. You have fraction tiles. You have a clock, hundreds charts. They can make words. If they are into music, they can create musical notes. They can write math expressions. You can create a number line, an empty number line. They can work with pattern blocks, and they can work with sorting shapes. Now I want to show another thing that you can do here, and that's with the graphic organizers. And the graphic organizer are especially important for reading activities. When I click here, you have a brainstorming web, cause and effect, content mapping, Cornell note-taking, the Fryer model, column notes. I use this for cause and effect, or I use this when I want to sort certain vowel sounds like short and long O words. Then you have columns, you reading response. They can talk about the scientific method. There's a sequence chart, story maps, a T-chart, a tree chart, table 6 box, table 2 column, table 3 column, table 4 column. Then they can write the word and a definition, a table and a grid, a thinking frame, and a Venn diagram. So you see all of the available tools that Smart Learning Suite has. Now, I've showed you an example of a game-based activity, but I want to show you a little bit more. So this is the one that I originally started with, and this is the Match Them Up activity. So when they preview this in the students view, you can see what the activity is. So I created an activity for high frequency words. So pretty much this is what happens. I wanted the students to match the high frequency words up together. So if I get it right, in KNOW is no, and then I match it up with the other no, then this is what happens. They defeat the alien-like robot. But if I put off here, and then I put because that doesn't match, this is what happens. They get blasted into the air. So then the students know that they really weren't paying attention to the spelling of the words. And I also have this other activity, which is a memory match. I like to use this for practicing vocabulary. And let me preview it for you so you can see. They can play this game by themselves, or they can play it with 2 players. Now, if I was playing this alone, this is how it will look. And I also put the directions here. You can also turn the music off if it's too loud. They have that option. So here is clean, grown up. They don't match, so it's going to flip right back over. Having something all over something else. The children are young people or animals, so they don't match. But what's going to happen is you keep going until you get a match. So here's what happens when you get a match. When you get a match, they go together as a pair. So this is another good game-based activity that students can practice with. And you have super sort. Super sort is good. As I said, I do this with language arts. When my students are practicing vowel sounds, I have my short and long O words. What happens when I put it in the right column, Coke and Gall. This is what happens when I put it in the right column. They destroy the other shit. But if I put it in the wrong column, they get destroyed. So then the students can check their work simply by doing a game-based activity. Now this one is a flip out. I also like this for reviewing vocabulary words because the students can test themselves. So if I wanted to tell you what covered means, I can say something all over something else, and then I can flip it and see if I was right. And then I was. So it's good for the students to review. Now this activity here, you can have a true or false statement and the students can answer it. Is the statement true or false? Yes, it's true. No, it's not. So then they can answer the questions here. And then there's a do you agree or disagree? And there's a response. The response I said before is good for assessing the students, especially if you taught them a skill. Now, I love this activity because the students can use it for spelling. So for example, if you want them to practice their spelling words, and I said to spell cat, the students can manipulate this. C-A-T, cat. And then they can practice their money. If I told them I wanted them to make 51 cents, they can put the coins here, and then they can create 51 cents, and then they can write the amount of money that's there. Now, here's how you convert an activity. You might be asking yourself right now, well, how can my student write on this? Well, this is how they do it. You go to convert activity, and once you go here, you can either have them work on it individually or have them work on it collaboratively. Now, if you create an activity that's a handout, this is what you're going to see happen. It's going to say handout, and then you can preview it to test it out for the students. And let's say you want to try to see the amount of money and you want to write, okay, this is $0.51. You can do that. All right, so you also can do the same thing with this Venn diagram I created. Students can work together on this, or you can make it an individual handout. And once again, the students are given the option to draw on this if they want. So let's say you want to compare cats to dogs. You can write this on the Venn diagram. You also have a typing tool that the students can use, but you don't see that right now because I'm in the editing view, but in the student view, you'll be able to see it. So that's pretty much how you edit it. Now, if you want to throw a slide in the trash, there's the trash can here. If you want to add the recording is here. And then you insert it into the video. And after you're done doing that, you'll be able to see the recording in the corner. So the student will see the recording and they will know what to do. So now I want to go into another activity here. I want to show you what it looks like if you're doing a student pace. So if I start here, if you're going to do a student pace lesson or a live lesson, one of the first things that you must do is make sure that your students have their devices. They can use a laptop, they can use a cell phone, or they can use a tablet. Any of those things would work, but they must have their own devices if they're going to be doing this independently. Now, this is a sample lesson that Smart Learning Suite has created, and I just wanted to navigate it to show you what it would look like when the slide is all done. Now, as I said before, when you want your students to participate, you can click here, and then your student ID will show up, and then they type in www.hello.smart, and then they put in your class ID. So these are some examples that they've created that I wanted to show you. Now, this one is a handout. This is a fill in the blanks activity. Click here, and you can put a whole can be one thing or a group of things that can be broken into parts. So you can do this, and then you can check your answers, and you can reset it to go back the way it was. And remember when I said that the students can type on it? This is not the best activity to show that, but this is an activity where they can draw the answers. And then, remember I also said you can insert a video. This is an example of a video in the student view.
Hey, Coach Mike. Hey there, Oli. How you doing? Oh.
Okay, and then if we keep going down, you'll see some more examples. This is called a label reveal. This is really good if they're labeling things like parts of a plant. In this specific example, they're showing you how to label an equation. So if I go to the question mark, they show you that this is an addend. They show you that this is an equal sign, this line here, and this is the sum, okay? Now, when you open up the teacher's lesson, you're able to see what the students are doing simply by looking here. Now, you don't see the students' names yet, but if a student was here, you'll see their name and you'll be able to click on it and see what they are doing at the very moment, or see what they've already done, depending on what they're doing. If they're doing student pace, you can see what they've already done. If they're doing teacher pace, you can see what they're doing live. Now, this is a teacher's handout. If you want to see what they're working on, then it looks like this. And this is another example. So here are all the tools that you can use. You have a drawing tool, you have an eraser, you have a picture, you have a place where you can type. So you saw the drawing tool already, and you can change the various colors. You can change it into whatever color you would like, and you can make it whatever width that you like. And then there's the eraser. You can make that whatever width you like. And then you can upload a picture or an image, and they can type into it too. If they wanted to type the text instead of write it, they can do this, and they can type in their answers. Okay, so as I said before you start a lesson, you want to make sure that the students have mobile devices. And like I said before, they can use a tablet, a laptop, or a Chromebook. And when you're doing student-paced lessons, you're going to have to slide it to student pace, okay? You can't have it on teacher pace. You have to have it on student pace if you want them to be able to do it independently. And I already showed you how to convert a page to a handout activity. And it's going to say individual handout activity here. And once again, you can view their progress. And I'm going to show you an example of that. And I also told you you can deliver response assessment. Now, if I go back to that page that I was on earlier, this is what you're going to see. When the students are working, and let's say you're the teacher, and this is the student, you will be able to see every student's name, just like this. And if you were to click on the student's name, you can see whatever they're doing. So let's say the student is doing this activity. I can click on his name or her name, and I can see what they're doing. Now, when the student is done, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see these check marks because they have to submit their responses. If it has a check mark, that means that they are done. If it doesn't have a check mark, that can mean that they're still working or they didn't submit their response. So it's a good way for you to monitor their work. And the good thing about this is you can also open up their response and you can write on it and you can send feedback right directly into whatever it is that they're doing. And that's it for Smart Learning Suite. Happy remote learning. Bye.